Line podcast. I'm Jimmy Finizzi alongside Neil Villapiano. We hope you're doing well. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to take a listen. We really do appreciate it. Before we get started, questions, opinions, Twitter and Instagram at Bottomline WMCX and on Twitter at The NVP Show, hashtag Bottomline. Voice message on Anchor, the app, or anchor.fm. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a like and a comment down below. Helps out tremendously. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a single episode we upload every single week. And please subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for the Bottom Line podcast. So yeah, last episode, it was just me. Neil's back. In case you missed it in the last episode, you can go back and listen. Neil will now be joining me once a week as opposed to 2 days a week. Neil, I don't know if you want to touch on that real quick just to reiterate the audience of what's going on real quick. So if you want to reiterate, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm happy to be on today as always. For the foreseeable future, I'm going to be trying to focus, I guess not a little bit, but a lot more on the things that I'm doing with Mofobo Network podcasts as well as the YouTube channel. Also still with Devil's State of Mind, still working on my book as well. And, for now, I'm just going to be focusing a little bit more on myself and my overall health as well, both physically and mentally. And this is no knock on anybody. This is no knock, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be selfish. I'm saying this from a standpoint. I mean, I guess you could say I am being a little bit selfish, but for good reason.
Right.
Just trying to look after myself. But I'm still going to be on here once a week. So you guys are always going to still see me every week, just not as frequent as you were, as you used to see me. But nonetheless, I'm still here and I'm not really going anywhere that much. So.
That's exactly what I reiterated.
But you can still, if you want to just check out more of the stuff that I do, please feel free to like and subscribe to the Mofobo Network podcast, which is available on Anchor and Spotify, where just like here on the Bottom Line, we talk about the most up-to-date topics in the world of sports. I actually have another episode coming out later on today. We post new episodes of the podcast, very similar to Bottom Line, every Tuesday and Thursday. And also go subscribe and like the Mofobo Network Presents YouTube channel, where just like on the podcast, I pick a topic to discuss that's pretty, I guess you would call it up to the date, so to speak. And we discuss it. Yesterday, I actually posted a new video. I recapped the 2020 WNBA Finals. Shout out to the Seattle Storm for winning their fourth WNBA title in franchise history. Also, Breanna Stewart winning her second WNBA Finals MVP. She becomes the fifth WNBA player in history to win multiple Finals MVPs. Go check that video out as well. We greatly appreciate it. Just like here on Bottom Line, leave a like and a comment and subscribe. It certainly helps me out, no question. And also, and this is kind of interesting because it involves the topic that we're discussing today. Devil's State of Mind podcast, the New Jersey Devils-based podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. We actually have some very exciting news that I'm not allowed to share yet. I will share soon on all the social media platforms for the podcast and everywhere else. So you guys will find out very, very quickly and very soon. New episodes of that every single Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts, basically anywhere. You just search Devil's State of Mind podcast and you'll find it. Or just search Hockey Podcast Network and you could just see all the team-based podcasts that we have there. So go check that out as well. I'm the host of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. That's kind of a bunch of stuff. I'm in the process. I'm very close actually to finishing up writing my second book. So
nice. That
should be out. I'm really hoping that that's going to be fully out by, a little bit before or probably on Black Friday. So relatively soon. So a lot of exciting things. As you can see, I'm a very busy individual. But I still will be on Bottom Line every single week, just not as much for the foreseeable future.
Yes, so just to reiterate again, Bottom Line, Neil's not going anywhere. He's still part of this podcast, just once a week for the foreseeable future. So
Jimmy will get an opportunity to take a trip down memory lane and be on his own for a while.
Dude, I gotta tell you, just real quick, to be honest, it did feel a little bit weird to do an episode solo again because it was like, whoa, like it
Right.
took me all the way back to 3 years ago. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like this can't be real right now. I'm like, I was literally all over the place. But no, it's seriously, this is still going to be really, really exciting. I'm still looking forward to working with you on this podcast. But yes, bottom line, Neil is still here. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. But just for the foreseeable future, he will be on with me once a week. So before we actually get into NHL free agency, I hate to be a Debbie Downer to start, but we can't start without sending our deepest condolences to Eddie Van Halen and his family. And if, for those that don't know, Eddie Van Halen, one of the greatest guitar players of all time, unfortunately lost his battle with cancer at the age of 65. Unfortunately, he was taken way too soon, and he was one of my out. He was actually him and Angus Young of AC/DC were two of the primary reasons why I actually wanted to play guitar. So he was definitely a big inspiration of mine, and he definitely had a lot of energy during live shows. If you haven't been to a Van Halen concert, I highly suggest you go find one on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But yes, our deepest sympathies go out to Eddie Van Halen and his family and his loved ones. He will be severely missed. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the swing of things. NHL free agency is almost here. Actually starts tomorrow, October 9th, actually. So we'll finally find out where everybody goes. And obviously the big name, or two of the big names, actually, that are being thrown out there are Alex Pietrangelo and Henrik Lundqvist. And Neil, I know I may be a bit biased to start off with this guy because you know I'm a Ranger fan.
To say the least, yeah. To say the least. Because I mean, I think the masses wouldn't say that Lundqvist is one of the top free agents in the free agent class, but I get
one of them. But yeah, I haven't been able to get my full thoughts out about the day he got bought out to now he's a free agent. I haven't been able to get my thoughts out, so I just want to address it real quick. So if you're a Ranger fan out there, I know you're probably feeling how I feel. You're probably like, you're hurting in a way. I get it. It's frustrating. You know, he didn't get the proper help that he needed. He still doesn't have a cup. Listen, I get it. But unfortunately, this was the right move for the Rangers to make. I personally think it was absolutely time for them to move on. And Neil has brought up this argument countless times, and I've made the same argument. If you were never going to put a proper team around this man who has pretty much carried the franchise on his back for almost his entire career, then what's the point of keeping him around? So unfortunately, this was the right call. Now, he has made it clear on social media that he still wants to play. He's 38. He's not getting any younger. I get it. So he'll probably go somewhere to be primarily a backup goaltender, which I'm sure is not the ideal situation for him. But in my opinion, it's probably the best for him if he ultimately wants to get a Stanley Cup and pursue, in my opinion, still a Hall of Fame career. Although I'm not going to he needs the cup first. Let's just get that out of the way right now. He needs the cup. I think
he'll get in the Hall of Fame. It's just that
I think so too. I
don't think it'll be first ballot unless
no.
But even then, I think you're really pushing it.
Hey, you can say whatever you want, but I stand by what I say. But I digress. But anyway, I threw out a couple of teams on social media that I thought would make sense. And if you didn't see, go check it out at Bottomline WMCX. I threw out Colorado because, you know, Colorado is a team that's on the rise, and they had a pretty decent draft, I guess you could say. I said that they needed a little bit more help in the goal scoring department because the top line of McKinnon, Rantanen, and whoever else can't do it all by themselves every single game. So they still need a little bit more help. But Colorado, I'm not sleeping on them this upcoming season. They are definitely a team to look out for, and they are going to be contenders for many, many years. So don't sleep on the Avalanche. So that would have made sense. And I also threw out Carolina because they desperately need goaltender help. And I'm not knocking Peter Mrazek. He's a solid goalie. He is. But, Cam Ward obviously not there. He's retired. And who is Peter Mrazek's backup?
James Reimer.
James Reimer, okay. But, I'm not knocking both of them. Both of them are still pretty solid. But, maybe if Hank were to go there, maybe he could provide some veteran leadership. But a team I did not expect was thrown out, and it's the hot team right now, and it's more than likely expected that he's going to sign there either later today or tomorrow. So by the time you're listening to this episode, he will probably already have signed. But the team I did not expect to show up was the Washington Capitals. And I personally think this doesn't make any sense because why would he want to go to a team in the same division as the Rangers? And B, they have Braden Holtby. So what would be the point?
Not anymore. Not anymore. They let him go.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
He's in the free agent market.
Oh,
So
this is a first for me. I actually didn't know that.
He wanted Braden Holtby wants to be paid $8.5 to $9 million. He wants to, make as much money as he can now at the point of his career. And I don't think anybody's going to give him that money. I'll just say that right now. But I think that the Capitals want to give Samsonov the opportunity to be the number one, and they're looking for a solid veteran backup. And, there are a lot of other options as well at the backup goalie position. Cam Talbot, Thomas Greiss, possibly Anton Hudobin. I'm hearing rumblings that he may I believe he is actually testing free agency, but it may just be to see what type of price he could get and then take it back to Dallas. I'm not sure. But the Capitals are looking for a veteran, puck stopper to back up Samsonov because Samsonov is going to be your franchise future goaltender. And, it makes sense. I guess I'll comment on the whole thing with Lundqvist after you're done because
but you're more than fine. Don't even worry about it. But I didn't hear Braden Holtby was a free agent, so thank you for letting me know about that. But now that you say that, it does still kind of make sense, although it still kind of bothers me that he would want to go to a team in the same division as my team, obviously. But bottom line, as long as he's on a team that has a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and believe me, the Capitals do have a chance. They won one 2 years ago. Who's to say they can't win another one? So, look, bottom line with me about the whole Henrik Lundqvist thing, yes, as a Ranger fan, I am heartbroken that he is gone, but you know what? Ultimately, it was the right call, and I really, really hope that he can pursue the Stanley Cup he so desperately deserves. Neil, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, with the Rangers deciding to buy out the rest of Lundqvist's contract, you said it best, it was the right thing to do. In order for the Rangers to finally get, to that new era of Rangers hockey and to kind of take that final step when it comes to being a retooling team, they had to move on. Actually, the two guys you can say that they had to move on from was Lundqvist and also Mark Stahl. And they weren't able to
got traded to Detroit for a couple of draft picks.
Exactly. So they were able to move on from him, and then they bought out Lundqvist. So now their team doesn't have to worry about holding on to the good years. They can just take that final step towards playing a new era of Rangers hockey, which is good. Right. And they really upgraded in many different ways during the draft. Obviously, with drafting Alexis Lafreniere with the number 1 overall pick, trading up to get Braden Schneider at 19, which I thought was a really, really good pickup.
The Rangers had a tremendous draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I give them probably an A- grade. I think they did a very good job. I think for the most part, they just kind of took the best player on the board, and I think that sometimes that's the best way to go, especially when you get into the later rounds. But, obviously I think a lot of us knew that Lundqvist was probably going to get bought out. It just made too much sense, and that's what happened. Lundqvist, as you mentioned before on social media, made it clear that he still wants to play. He still wants to compete. But he understands that he's not going to go somewhere, especially a cup contender, and be the number 1 goalie. There's just no way that was going to happen. So I'm sure he looked at some options. And I understand from a Rangers fan standpoint that you're frustrated with him going to, a team within the division in the Washington Capitals. But you have to look at it this way. Number 1, the Capitals might have honestly been the only team that has spoken to Lundqvist and offered him. That could be the first thing. And so Lundqvist is, decision-making comes down to, do I just continue to wait and see what happens, or do I just jump at the opportunity now? Because the Capitals may just say, here, Hank, we're giving you a week to make that decision, and then we're moving on. Because if you don't make a decision, we're just going to go and find someone else.
Right.
And that's the reality of it. We knew that most likely the Capitals were not going to give the money to Braden Holtby, and they were going to move on, especially with the fact that they have Ilya Samsonov as their franchise goaltender. So Holtby's going to be going on to somewhere else, and the Capitals are going to want to have a relatively cheap and solid backup. And I think Lundqvist, if he went to a team and was just a backup, the second goalie, I mean, first of all, there's a chance he's going to play a lot more than he did this past season with the Rangers. So I think it's going to work out. And also, he wants to go to a team that has an opportunity to go win a Stanley Cup. Now, I believe you did mention the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes.
To be honest with you, I don't think the Hurricanes are really there right now as far as a cup contender. And Lundqvist's time in the NHL, particularly physically, is running out. Mm-hmm. So he really has to not basically make it a guarantee, but go to a place where there is a legitimate shot. I like the Colorado idea. You know, there is some uncertainty with what the Avs want to do with Philip Grubauer and Pavel Francouz. I don't think they're going to keep Michael Hutchinson, so you know that's kind of irrelevant to this. But they might move on from one of those two guys and say, "Hey, we need a veteran backup, or we just need a backup. Here's Lundqvist. Let's sign him." The Avs are a little bit closer to being a cup contender. With the Capitals, you know, the way that they performed in the bubble and the way that especially they looked against the Islanders makes me kind of wonder if their time is now past, that they find, you know, they won a cup and now they're kind of getting to that point where a lot of core guys are getting older, are at that point in their career where they're probably not going to have that many good years left unless you're Alex Ovechkin. You know, because, you know, you have a cup, you have a him, you know, I heard that the Capitals may want to move on from TJ Oshie, you know, try to move him in a trade somehow, you know, to just clear up cap space. You know, I think that the Capitals want to try to hold on as much as possible with the core that they have and try to win another cup, which is fine. But you better have a backup plan. You might as well try to make some other moves for the future as well.
Yep. So
that maybe when you fall down to the ground and fall down to the end of that run, you don't fall flat on your face.
Right.
So I get it. So from Lundqvist's standpoint, it's a pretty good fit in my opinion. It might be the best fit. The only other place I could have seen where it would have been a good fit is if he goes to the Vegas Golden Knights, because we don't know what Marc-Andre Fleury's status is right now. We are hearing a lot that the Golden Knights are shopping Fleury. I even heard that they
and they just extended Robin Leonard.
Well, they extended him to a 5-year contract, and they've made it clear that they probably want to move on from Flower. And I did hear a rumor about the possibility of, you know, the Golden Knights offered the Minnesota Wild Marc-Andre Fleury for a couple picks, I think it was, and the Wild declined it, or it just, you know, it wasn't a deal that they felt comfortable making. But nonetheless, I think that the Golden Knights, if they're going to make a switch at the backup goalie position, they're going to wait to move Fleury before they do anything else. So again, that brings up Lundqvist's situation of, do I sit and wait and see what the market, you know, is within the next couple of weeks, or do I just jump at the opportunity where there's a team that is a cup contender that is very interested in me and goes from there? It's a really tough decision to make, because sometimes playing the waiting game works out. I think most of the time, though, if you wait around too long, especially if you're not one of the more hot commodities in the free agent class.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Lundqvist might be the 4th or 5th most interesting goaltender in this class. I'm going to be very frank.
I agree.
I don't think, you know, if this was Henrik Lundqvist 5 years ago, okay, then he would certainly be the number one player in general, probably in the free agency market. But
because he's not the same goaltender he used to be, then he falls like the 4th or 5th. Top.
Right. He's not the same player. His statistics show that he's probably regressing somewhat, but maybe with a better defense around him and just a better overall team, Lundqvist might have a fairer chance. And also, I think that it's going to be a, low risk, somewhat medium to high reward, because Lundqvist could turn back the clock and play very well as a backup. But I think the best thing for Lundqvist is to jump at the opportunity now as opposed to waiting around. Because if he's already being offered by a team or multiple teams to be a backup on a championship contender, I think you jump at it now. You don't wait around to see if you can get a better deal or have more teams look at you. And obviously, if things change within the next couple of weeks and, Lundqvist is already on a team, he might be like, oh, I should have waited. But, hindsight is 20/20. And so that's the thing. Bottom line, I think Lundqvist going to the Capitals makes a lot of sense. No doubt it's going to be weird for Rangers fans and just people in hockey in general to see him in a uniform other than the red, white, and blue. But you know what? At the end of the day, the Rangers made the right decision, and they're gonna benefit from it. They've opened up a bunch of cap space, which is good. They can then, they can try to re-sign guys like Strome and Tony DeAngelo and Di Giuseppe and guys like that. So they have space to maneuver now, and also it doesn't hurt that they were able to draft the number 1 overall player in the draft this year. So, I mean, the Rangers have turned the page and ended that chapter of Rangers history and now are looking to write a new chapter of Rangers history, one that I think should be within the next year or two result in the Rangers really being a Stanley Cup contender. But, I think Lundqvist, it's best for him to just take the offer that he's being given, if it in fact is that offer, and just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely make valiant points. I can't argue those points because you're absolutely right. I actually think now that you mentioned earlier that Brayton Holtby is a free agent now, it actually does make a lot of sense because look, Samsonov is a very, very good young goaltender. There's no denying that. He's going to be great for years. So if you can add a guy like Henrik Lundqvist to provide some veteran leadership for him, then I think it would definitely make all the difference for Samsonov. So it actually does make sense. But yes, bottom line, am I hurt that he's gone? Yes. But like I said, and like Neil has said countless times, it is the right call, unfortunately. And we wish him all the best. We really, really do. And we really do hope.
I mean, I personally don't, because I'm a Devils fan. And,
well, you're a Devils fan. You're a Devils fan. You're different, but
I'm different. I'm built different. So.
It's fine.
But yeah, I mean, look, if he goes and wins a cup, good for him.
Absolutely.
But I don't wish him
personally. Every single Ranger fan is going to want him to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. Very true.
And pretty much all of hockey is rooting for him to win a Stanley Cup at this point because that's the only thing that he is missing from his resume, and that is pretty much the bottom line with Henrik Lundqvist. We wish him the best, and we really hope he gets that championship. Another big name in free agency, and one that's pretty more significant in my mind, is Alex Pietrangelo. Yep. Formerly of the St. Louis Blues. Hopefully not formerly. Hopefully the Blues can somehow find a way to keep him. But I'm hearing that the Flyers have been the top team looking for a defenseman since Matt Niskanen just retired. So right. Maybe that's the reason why.
And they're trying to move Shane Gostisbehere. So.
Yeah, Gostisbehere as well. I think they're trying to move on from him. And I got no knock on Gostisbehere. I think he's a solid player. I can't stand the Flyers, but him, I don't mind one bit. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it could be an interesting fit. Like I said, Niskanen retired. Pietrangelo comes in, fills his skates. Hey, it could be a good fit. But if the Blues want to keep him, they got to remember, Colton Parayko is still on the team.
Yep.
You can't keep both of them. So it's either going to be one or the other. Because if
you still have to find a way to get Vince Dunn a deal.
Well, yeah.
That
too.
As well.
So regardless of what happens, if you decide to keep Pietrangelo and do that, Colton Parayko's gone. There is no way in heck you're keeping Colton Parayko. As much as he means so much to that organization.
Unless Pietrangelo takes a team-friendly deal,
Yeah. But
could be a 2 or 3 year deal to just wait and see what happens.
There's no way you're keeping both of them, though. So if I'm the Blues, If you don't want to get rid of him, figure something out. If you can somehow find a way to keep both Pietrangelo and Parayko, great. But in my mind, I don't think it's going to be the case. One of them has to go. And in my opinion, I think Pietrangelo actually might stay put. As much as I think the Flyers would be an interesting fit, I think the Blues find a way to keep Pietrangelo here.
So first of all, the first part, I'm going to disagree with you. I think Pietrangelo will not be returning to St. Louis. I think, honestly, the Blues understand that they just don't have the cap space and the term to give Pietrangelo what he and his agent want. And I know Pietrangelo really, really wants to stay in St. Louis. You know, his wife's from St. Louis, and he's the captain of the team and everything. But at the same time, the man is 30 years of age. He hasn't made a huge amount of money in his career, and this is probably the only time in his career.
That's Maya, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's our official bottom line mascot for those that don't know.
Right.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Neil. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I think that Pietrangelo wants to make bank off of the fact that this is probably going to be the only time that he's going to be able to make a considerable amount of money. If he were to take a 2 or 3 year deal, he's going into, his 33-year-old season, and people might not be as interested or willing to give Pietrangelo a huge amount of money at that point. So I think Pietrangelo really is going to go out there this offseason and really look around. I don't expect him to make a decision the first day. It might take a couple of days, because then, nobody's going to get called for tampering. Nobody's going to get in trouble, everything like that. I think that it's going to be a couple of days process. It might be like the John Tavares situation a few years back. Who knows? I don't think Pietrangelo would be criticized by Blues fans necessarily if he were to go somewhere else, because he hasn't really said that he's trying 100% to stay in St. Louis. I know he and his agent have been working with the Blues the last couple of weeks to try to see if they could get something going, but talks kind of fell through. They may also just see what the market is out there and then maybe go back to the Blues and see if they can work out a deal that way. But I think that Alex Pietrangelo is going to end up playing for the Vegas Golden Knights next season.
Ooh.
I think the Golden Knights are at that point now where it's like, okay, we have the pieces on offense. We already have a very solid D core. We have a guy who's probably going to be a Norris Trophy defenseman in the future in Shea Theodore. We have our goalie for the future in Robin Leonard. Now let's get that all-star defenseman that can fit in with the core that we have. And getting Pietrangelo would be the icing on the cake, where at that point you'd say, well, it's Vegas's cup to lose at that point.
Oh, yeah.
They're a stacked team from top to bottom. But, is there another team I could see? I could see the Toronto Maple Leafs trying to make a run for him. I know that they're very interested. They can make a run. The Flyers, I actually have not heard about their interest in Pietrangelo. I've heard them more interested and aggressive on trying to acquire Patrick Laine in a trade from the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm sure we'll probably discuss that later on.
That would be another interesting fit.
But I do like Pietrangelo going to the Flyers because, again, like you mentioned, Matt Niskanen retired. They're trying to move on from Shane Gostisbehere. And if they can get, move on from Gostisbehere, they do need a top, right wing, right-handed defenseman, and Pietrangelo fits that mold. And plus, the Flyers are probably at that point where now they should be competing for a Stanley Cup. They have the core to do it. They could have done it this past season, but obviously they ran into a team with a lot of mojo going for them in the New York Islanders. It's an interesting thing, but I think bottom line for me is I think it's going to be Vegas. I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 year deal. I don't think it's going to be exactly what Pietrangelo wants, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
If he can win another cup with Vegas, it'll definitely be a great deal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he would be the captain. I could be wrong.
No.
I mean, I could be wrong. I think if he goes to Toronto, I don't think he would take the captaincy away from John Tavares. I certainly think he might be an alternate captain, but he would have to go to a team that's in a cup position and a chance to go win a cup. That's what he would be looking for if he were to do that. The Blues are still a team that can compete for a Stanley Cup. I think they took a little bit of a step backwards this year. They do have to make some moves with guys like David Perron and Alexander Steen. They may have to move on from one of those guys or both of those guys. Vegas is trying to move on possibly from a guy like Stastny, which could open up some cap space. And they may wait. They may try to move Stastny within the next 2 or 3 days to open up more cap space. They didn't re-sign Nick Cousins. They did re-sign Stevenson to a 4-year deal yesterday, so that was important, especially being on the bottom 6. But I think Pietrangelo would fit in perfectly with the Vegas Golden Knights, in my opinion. And I think that's where he's going to end up being when it's all said and done. But I just don't see St. Louis unless Pietrangelo takes a team-friendly deal, which I don't know if he's comfortable with doing because he still won't be paid the money that I think he deserves at this point in his career. I think that his time in St. Louis is coming to an end, or is pretty much, at an end.
Well, boy, I'll tell you what, Vegas would be a very, very interesting fit. I would pay big money.
Rich get richer, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. I would definitely pay big money to see that, but it's going to be very, very interesting with Pietrangelo because, one of those is more important than the other right now. And to me, in my opinion, it's Pietrangelo. So if the St. Louis Blues keep him, then like I said, Parayko is gone because you cannot keep both of them. If Parayko stays, then Pietrangelo's gone. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So another key free agent here is your guy, Taylor Hall, former MVP with the New Jersey Devils. And one name I'm hearing, and I don't know if you heard this yet, Neil, but one name that I heard from a couple of people who I've talked to, the Nashville Predators. Because
I did hear
that. Yeah, because now that they traded Nick Bonino, now it gives Nashville another potential top scoring target, and Taylor Hall could definitely be a pretty good fit because, I don't know if Arizona's going to keep him or not.
They're not.
If I were them,
they're not.
Probably not.
Well, no,
why even waste your time?
The new general manager of the Coyotes spoke to Taylor Hall's agent yesterday and said that they wish him well and they're moving on.
Okay,
so,
all right. So it's official. So it's official.
Not even happening.
Okay.
Right, not even happening.
All right. So yeah, I was gonna say, why waste your time? You pretty much need help everywhere else. And Taylor Hall, look, as solid of a player as he is, he's definitely not going to be a part of the long-term solution for Arizona. I'm not knocking Arizona. I'm sure they're a great organization, but right now they're just not that good of a team right now. They definitely need all the help.
That was the definition of knocking on them, what you just said. So I don't know why you said you're not. You are.
Subtly a little bit. But anyway.
Right.
But no, I mean, Nashville will be an interesting fit. Maybe. Well, I know we talked about this a little bit, off the air. We discussed some potential targets. You mentioned the Rangers. If Taylor Hall were to take a 1-2 year deal, that would be an interesting fit. I personally can't see it happening, but it would be nice. But I personally can't see that happening unless for some reason, like I said, he takes a 1-2 year deal and can definitely help them with a scoring front, which they do need more of. But in my opinion, the Rangers need a bit more help on the defensive end. So Taylor Hall, I can't see happening. I'm sorry. Would the Devils be interested in taking him back?
Absolutely not.
No?
He doesn't fit. Okay. You know what? Finish your points, and then I'll
No,
I have a lot to say, and I don't want to take over the conversation.
No. I was just going to end by saying Taylor Hall's going to be another interesting conversation. But I personally think he's going to go to Nashville. I mean, now that Nick Bonino's gone, Nashville definitely needs a lot more help on the scoring front. And Taylor Hall, I still think, has a couple more decent years left in him and try and help Nashville get over the hump. But I kind of like the Nashville idea. Maybe sign him to maybe like a 1-2 year deal. See how it works out. If it doesn't work, then hey, move on. We tried, it didn't work, so move on to something else. But bottom line, Taylor Hall, I think he's going to Nashville.
So, yeah, Taylor Hall's a pretty interesting free agent this year because early on he kind of made it clear, not Hall himself, more of his agent, made it kind of clear that Hall was looking to go someplace long-term that was also a championship contender. Now, if we were in normal times with the salary cap going up the to where it was supposed to go up to well over $90 million, okay, then probably that was going to be more realistic. But because now we're in a situation where the salary cap stays put for the next 2 seasons, it just doesn't make it a likely possibility at all. And the fact that for a while it seemed like he was going to remain stubborn and say, no, I'm still going to go out and try to get this type of deal, it just kind of made it seem like, well, he's going to end up being one of the guys that's going to take the longest to sign with someone because he's going to remain on what he's looking for. But I did hear yesterday and 2 days ago as well that Taylor Hall's agent put it out publicly that Taylor Hall is willing to take a 1 to 2, maybe even a 3-year deal from somebody and retest the free agency market once the salary cap goes up. So it would be more of a prove-it deal to whomever he decides to go to.
Right.
And then speaking about where he could go, like you had mentioned, I had said to you that I think the Rangers could be a possibility on a 1 or 2 year deal with a high average annual value, which I think is possible.
Right.
He would fit in seamlessly, I think, on that top 6 with the Rangers. I think it would move Capo Caco down to the bottom 6. But if he's paired with Alex Lafreniere on that third line, I think you have 3 really, really solid scoring lines. It would certainly make the Rangers a better team. It's probably not likely, considering all the parameters of what the Rangers might want to try to do. But I just threw it out there as a possibility that, if the guy like Taylor Hall is willing to take a 1 or 2 year deal, that makes more teams intrigued on actually bringing him in.
Right.
Then you mentioned Nashville. There's one thing that you did forget to mention about Nashville. Taylor Hall's former head coach in New Jersey, John Hines, is the head coach of the Nashville Predators. And Taylor Hall's been public before that he's really enjoyed playing for John Hines because John Hines pushes him a lot and everything. And so Hall may be interested in going there to kind of, reconnect with John Hines and do it in Nashville. And I think that Nashville is trying to take that next step in getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals and winning it this time. And, they've made some moves. I think this PK Subban trade actually did not go well for Nashville because if you think about it, out of all the things that they have, Jeremy Davies is the only person and only asset that's left from that deal. And that was a little over a year ago.
Right.
So maybe that deal in hindsight didn't really work out for either side. Subban could still prove a lot of doubters wrong going into this next season with the Devils. But, going to a place like Nashville with the good talent that they have, they do need some help with timely goal scoring. And I think Taylor Hall, if not given that number one, being on the number 1 line, I think he could provide that easily. So Nashville, I think, is a very, very high possibility. I like Colorado as well at a 2 to 3 year deal. I think putting him on the top 6, maybe on that second line, would certainly, help him take that next step. And plus, remember, he was rumored to be traded to Colorado during the, when the Devils were moving him. And, Colorado's looking at it like, well, we could now get him on a cheap deal without giving up anything, and we could have a guy that could help us score an extra 30 to 35 goals. This is tremendous. So I think that you got to put Colorado in that discussion. I am going to throw 2 wild cards out there. Okay. I'm going to throw the Montreal Canadiens and the Vegas Golden Knights as well. Okay. I think, first of all, talking about Vegas again, I just think they're going to be very active. I just think they're going to be super aggressive trying to get a star player to come to Vegas. Because, Vegas is about having stars. And, they've already created some stars with some of the guys that they've been able to keep from the expansion draft, also just making really good moves and everything and putting themselves in a good position to remain competitive early on in their existence. I think if Taylor Hall, again, if he's like, I'm all about 2-3 year deal, with not much average annual value, a lot more teams, especially Stanley Cup contending teams, might say, well, shoot, here's this contract. Why did I bring up Montreal? Montreal just traded away Max Domi.
Yep.
So they're done with Max Domi. Why they got rid of him, I think it has more to do with the relationship between Marc Bergevin and Domi. Domi said yesterday he didn't feel comfortable talking about Marc Bergevin. So, you could read that any way you want. But I think Taylor Hall would be a guy that would help the Canadians, take that next step towards being a team that, with the young core that they have of guys like Kakiniemi and Suzuki, and obviously adding Taylor Hall to the fold. You just traded and acquired Jake Allen from St. Louis, so now you have a really solid younger backup for Carey Price, who is still one of the top 5 goalies in the National Hockey League. And you have a team that could definitely make a longer, more aggressive run in the postseason if you get there. I think that, considering that they got in as the last team in the 2014 playoff, people didn't really think they deserved to be there. They were able to knock out the Penguins. They went pretty far, against the Philadelphia Flyers in round 2. I mean, they had an opportunity to maybe pull off another upset, but unfortunately their run ended. But they still could be a team that is on the rise. And I think Taylor Hall going there, being Canadian, everybody, Montreal fans love the Canadian type of players that come to their team. I think Taylor Hall would be well-liked. He would certainly be under a lot of pressure. I do think Taylor Hall thrives under that type of pressure. And, we'll go from there. The whole thing with Taylor Hall being a locker room cancer, I don't fully buy that.
No.
It kind of goes back to that, that was one of the reasons the Devils traded him. It really wasn't. One of the realities with the Devils is that Taylor Hall's agent wasn't going to talk contract until after the season. The Devils were going nowhere. It was clearly obvious that probably Hall was not going to come back anyway. So Shiro wanted to get some value for Taylor Hall as best as he could. That's what ended up happening. Now, you mentioned the Devils. And the reason I say absolutely not is not because I don't want Taylor Hall to come back. I mean, I would certainly be, open arms. It would be a little bit awkward considering that he's been away from the team for a couple months now. It would be super awkward. The other thing is this. He wouldn't be on the first line. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he'd be on that first line.
Right.
They might move Gusev up to the first line considering how well he played down the stretch for the Devils after the Taylor Hall trade. Tom Fitzgerald, the general manager of the Devils, has made it clear that he wants to get guys with control that are between that 20, that very young to about 26-year-old, window. And I believe Taylor Hall is 27 or 28 at this point. Yeah. So Taylor Hall, where he is at his point in his career, is not where the Devils are. And also Hall doesn't want to go to a Devils team that, let's be honest, is nowhere near being a Stanley Cup contender for the next couple of seasons. So why would he want to go back there? The only reason he goes back is that if the Devils give him the most money and most term, which they could easily give him what he's asking for. But Fitzgerald doesn't want to entertain it. Now, if Hall says he wants to come back to the Devils on a 1 or 2 year deal, I think I'm more okay with that. Because if he comes back to his MVP form, we just got that much better for very little of the price. But the bottom line is with the Devils and Taylor Hall, that ship has sailed. It's not going to happen. Taylor Hall, he, created some great memories for the time that he was in New Jersey. Unfortunately, it didn't work out considering all the other parameters that were involved. But I'm going to say, honestly, it's either going to be Vegas or Montreal for me that I think Taylor Hall goes to.
All right. Well, hey, those are two.
And I'm not saying, by the way, that the Golden Knights are going to try to get both Pietrangelo and Taylor Hall.
No, right.
They probably would have to choose between one or the other.
Right. But no, I mean,
unless they made some drastic moves with other guys that aren't rumored to be moved in order to get those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But those are two very, very interesting and dark horse type of fits. I like it for both teams. We'll definitely see what happens with good old Taylor Hall. So just to quickly wrap things up here, couple of trade rumblings happening in the NHL. We mentioned what's going to happen with Marc-Andre Fleury. Vegas is going to try and move on from him. They extended Robin Lehner. So where could Fleury end up? Honestly, I have no idea who's going to want to take him on. I really hope he gets another chance, but it's going to be interesting to see what team wants to take him on. But the big thing is Patrick Laine. He has been in trade talks for a while. If you thought they were quiet, you'd be sadly mistaken, because this is not going anywhere anytime soon unless the Jets, A, somehow keep him, or B, trade him. I don't see why the Jets would – look, I was a proponent of them keeping him, but the Jets are kind of at best. I mean, what have they really done? I mean, when they have made the playoffs, they really couldn't get over the hump. And, I can understand, Patrick Laine's a bit frustrated there. He probably wants to move on, and I wouldn't blame him if he ultimately decided that he wants to be traded, but I digress there. But now I'm actually hearing from TSN's Frank Saravelli that the Flyers were not interested in getting Alex Pietrangelo even after Matt Niskanen's retirement. So maybe, and I really hate to say it, maybe the Flyers should take a chance on making a move, because the Flyers can score, but with a guy like Patrick Laine, I mean, that offense for the Flyers could definitely be a lot more lethal. And unfortunately, I could see that happening. I really, really could. And it's just going to make the Rangers-Flyers rivalry even more and more exciting. And it'll definitely get ratings to the TV and radio, I'll say that much. But, with Laine, it's going to be interesting. Like, if the Jets do decide to keep him, hey, good for them, but how's that going to work out for him? Yeah, he'll score like your 40, 50 goals a year, but true. What's that going to do for the rest of the team if they can't seem to get over the hump? I think he deserves to go to a playoff contending team. He deserves that experience, and I really think that if he has the chance, he should try to go to a team that has a chance to compete for a Stanley Cup. And, I'm not saying the Flyers don't have a chance to compete for a Stanley Cup. They do, but I think they're a couple of years away from doing that. So if I'm Patrick Laine, I would take the chance on the Flyers. They're at least a playoff contender in my eyes, and they could definitely need some help on the scoring front.
Yeah, intriguing situation, because if you look at what happened last year with him, prior to the season, he had kind of put out there publicly that he was kind of tired of being in Winnipeg. He felt like he deserved to be paid, accordingly, considering how well he did. And the Jets were saying to him, look, you need to balance your game out a little bit more in order for us to believe that, you deserve that money. And he took a bridge deal, even though there was a lot of rumblings that he was going to get traded last year before the season started. But he takes a 2-year bridge deal. I think he actually got better in many other facets of the game other than just goal scoring. But he still needs some work, and that's okay because he's 22 years of age and He has a lot of time left to do so. The Jets pretty much understand that they won't be able to afford giving Patrick Laine the contract he's looking for after this upcoming season. They just won't. So they're looking at it and saying, we may have to move on. Even if we don't want to, we may just have to move on from Laine, because Patrick Laine also has made it public that he wants to play on a line with Mark Scheifele, and the Jets don't want to do that. They want Blake Wheeler to be playing with Mark Scheifele, and that's okay, because if chemistry has been working, why not?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly, and I think Laine also wants to feel like that he is a franchise's top winger, and the Jets are kind of treating him not like that.
Right.
I don't know if you buy that or not, but that's what I'm hearing. And we have heard a multitude of different teams that could be interested, have tried to make a deal work, and things like that. The Flyers has been the most consistent. I am reading a report right now that says that the Winnipeg Jets likely want a defenseman, either Travis Sanheim or Philip Myers for Patrick Laine. I did hear that the Flyers were not keen on letting either one of those guys go. I did know that they were trying to use, speaking from about the Flyers, that they were trying or have been trying to convince the Jets to take Shane Gostisbehere. And it sounds like the Jets are not wild about that. The reality is with Patrick Laine is this. Patrick Laine is worth a crap load of assets. He's 22 years of age, already a 40-goal scorer. This kid's going to continue to be lethal for many years to come, and is going to be your number one winger no matter what team he's on, maybe just not Winnipeg.
Right.
It's, the problem is that the Jets are not going to get, no matter who they deal Laine to right now, they're not going to get the value. They're not going to get what they want. And there were rumors about, some teams might move some of the picks that they have to acquire Laine. Again, I just don't think teams were interested in taking on a guy that they couldn't guarantee that they could sign him to a long-term deal. Now, if the deal ends up working out, if there's a deal in place, if I were whoever is acquiring Laine, I would call him immediately and say, let's try to work out a contract now, an extension, that's going to give you the money that you want now. I do believe that the Flyers have the room to do it. They may have to move some pieces, though, to get where they want to be, but they probably could do it. I don't fault the Flyers for making an attempt. I don't fault anyone for making an attempt, because if Don Cheveldayoff, the GM of the Winnipeg Jets, if he's making it publicly, making it public that he's very much considering moving Laine, you might as well make a move. I wouldn't be surprised if most teams just wait back and wait till maybe the trade deadline. See where the Jets are, see what happens, and maybe make a move then. Or just wait till he gets to free agency, and then you get him for nothing, except you have to give him money. I believe he's an RFA at the end of this year. So obviously there's going to be a lot of teams that will probably put an offer sheet out there, and then they'll just say, all right, Jets, you going to pay this or not? And then just go from there. But Patrick Laine, I would say this. Because of how up and down it's been, don't be surprised if Patrick Laine is on the Jets when the season starts. I personally don't think the Jets should actually trade Laine. I think that they should really, really try to keep him long-term. Because honestly, I get it with Blake Wheeler. He's been there basically his entire career, and he's your guy. But he's getting up there in age, and freaking Laine is 22. If you can convince Blake Wheeler to play on the second line, and Laine gets what he wants, then everybody's happy and you can keep moving on.
Yep.
And people are talking about, well, why don't they move Nikola Ehlers? I think the Jets really don't want to move on from Ehlers. I think they really, really like him. And I don't blame him. He's a fantastic player. And so I think that the Jets are going to, they've made their price for Laine very clear. We don't know exactly what it is, but they've made it clear. And some teams have tried to convince the Jets to tone it down a little bit and to say, okay, can we just work out a compromise? And the Jets are like, no, this is what we want, take it or leave it. And, I think that the Jets put a price like that out there because they really don't want to necessarily trade Laine. But if they do, they're going to look at it and say, all right, do we take the offer or do we just keep pushing forward? I do expect, though, the rumors about Laine to continue to flow. I do expect teams to continue to go back to Winnipeg and talk about it. But I don't think that by the beginning of next season, when it appears to be, January 1st,
right?
I don't think Patrick Laine will be traded at that point. He might be traded at the deadline, or he might just go somewhere else in free agency. But I don't expect the Jets to make a move because I just don't think they're going to get anywhere near the value that they're looking for.
No, probably not. But it's going to be very, very interesting. So don't expect these trade rumors to die down anytime soon. They're going to keep going until it finally happens or unless he's a free agent. So bottom line, it's going to be a very, very interesting free agency period and a very interesting time involving trades and stuff. So we will see what happens. And on that note, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Bottom Line Podcast. If you have any thoughts on anything we discussed, let us know on Twitter at BottomLineWMCX and on Instagram as well. Same handle at BottomLineWMCX and on Twitter at the NVP Show, hashtag Bottom Line. Voice message on Anchor, the app, or at anchor.fm. And please leave a like and a comment down below if you are watching on YouTube. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And please subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for the Bottom Line Podcast. Before we actually sign off for this episode, we want to send out congratulations to our good friends in First to 11 because they have reached 900,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is absolutely insane. They absolutely deserve this. And hey, 1 million is the next mission. Let's get them there. So please, if you are not subscribed to them,
I think you get like a silver button, a YouTube button. I think if you reach 1 million.
I think you're right. I know you get
Something
something.
random.
I know you get something if you reach 100,000. That I know, but I think you are right. If you get to 1 million, you get like a plaque delivered to you.
There you go.
Let's help them get that plaque and get to 1 million. So let's help them there. And don't miss their live stream tonight, October 8th, of 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. They're actually going to be doing something very, very special. Instead of doing acoustic songs, they're actually going to be reacting to old videos. So that'll be very, very interesting. So tune in tonight. I know we will for sure. 5:30 to 6:30 Eastern time. So, and again, congratulations to them for reaching 900K. But Neil, as always, an absolute blast, and I'm looking forward to doing it all again next week, my man.
Same here, my friend.
All right, you take care. For Neil Villapiano, I'm Jimmy Finizzi. This is the Bottom Line Podcast. Take care of yourselves out there. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you in the next episode.